My name is Tom McNally, and I'm the Dean of Libraries. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us on this very special day for the University Libraries. And I'm not sure exactly what I thought today was going to be, but I am absolutely convinced that this is a day of friends and family. And let me ask, how many members of the Conroy family are with us? And how many members of the Smith family are with us? And how many friends of the University Libraries are with us? And I will tell you, there is no greater friend to this library than the president of the University of South Carolina, Dr. Harris Bastides.
Thank you. Well, I'm no Conroy, and I'm no Smith, and I'm no McNally. In fact, there's no Irish other than through my bride, Patricia, which I'm happy to claim. What a Garnet Letter Day it is, again, at the TCL. By the way, let me tell you, I love walking through this building during finals. You know, when there are how many students a day might enter during finals, Tom? 12,000 students. And they're all plugged in, you know, they're supposed to be reading. The books are open, but they've all got a latte right there, and they've got their earbuds in, and I just love walking over to them and telling them they're just that close. Don't blow it now. Do your studying. You know, there'll be R&R right afterwards. In addition to thanking Tom for his outstanding stewardship of the Thomas Cooper Library and all university libraries, I'd like to introduce two members of our board who are here today, Mr. Tommy Cofield and Mr. Thad Westbrook, and Cappy Hubbard, the wife of William Hubbard. So let's recognize these special guests. Dr. Edgar, always wonderful to see you. Welcome today. So we are here in the Ernest F. Hollings wing of the Thomas Cooper Library. I could go on for a long time. I could tell you that the best part of this wing is not this room. It's downstairs where there are 47,000 linear feet for any non-math majors. That would be 9 miles of compact shelving. There are 250,000 books, manuscripts, I have to take a deeper breath, political papers, folios, maps, framed art. There's a reading room, seminar rooms beneath us here, a mini theater, galleries, a treasure vault, a digitization center, and a room for audiovisual research. And so libraries for a while there, maybe in the 1990s, started being thought of as peripheral to the work of a university because people didn't need access to books all the time. But because we have a great dean and because we have great collections here, make no mistake about it, the Horseshoe is the historic heart of the University of South Carolina, but the Thomas Cooper Library is the brain of the university, and I'm happy to be here today. The great Pat Conroy posed an interesting question in his memoir, My Losing Season. He asked, quote, "Do you think that Hemingway knew he was a writer at 20 years old?" No, he did not. Hemingway didn't know he was Ernest Hemingway when he was a young man. Faulkner didn't know he was William Faulkner. But they had to take the first step. They had to call themselves writers. That is the first revolutionary act, Pat says, the first revolutionary act a writer has to make. It takes courage, but it is necessary. Readers worldwide now are grateful that Pat Conroy also took that step, that he found the courage to call himself a writer. And I believe that Pat Conroy now knows that he is indeed Pat Conroy. We're pretty sure of that. Yes, I think so. And he is Pat Conroy, not only a writer, but a beautiful storyteller. For we Southerners who love stories know that we love to share them with the rest of the planet. Today you'll see firsthand how committed the university is, our university is, in preserving Pat Conroy's great literary gifts. For it is now my great privilege and honor to announce that the University of South Carolina has acquired the complete archives of Pat Conroy. And owning it, having it is great, but the best part of it is that very soon scholars and students and writers, those who take that revolutionary act and call themselves writers and poets and dreamers, will have access to his notes, to his letters, and to the handwritten drafts of his beloved novels. They're beloved to us. I hope they're beloved to him as well. The Pat Conroy Archive comes to the university through the great generosity of Richard and Novell Smith. This wonderful gift will honor in perpetuity the life of Richard Smith's mother, the late Dorothy Brown Smith. Dorothy loved reading a good Pat Conroy novel. I won't ask if she read all of them, but they were all good, so I'm sure she read all of them. She was also a great Gamecock supporter and a dear friend to Patricia and to me. Richard, this is an extraordinary tribute to your mom. She would be so pleased, I'm confident. Would you stand and be recognized, please, Richard? Now, for the first time, Richard Smith. Thank you again, and we'll hear from Richard in a moment. From the heartbreaking yet lyrical story of his days as a South Carolina school teacher on Defusky in The Water is Wide, to the volatile world of his childhood revealed in The Great Santini, to the oft-translated and very popular The Prince of Tides, Pat has linked us to his private world cloaked in fiction. I was ecstatic when I learned that Pat's collection might come to the University of South Carolina. I nudged and cajoled and asked and inquired, but didn't provide the check to Dean McNally. You know, what would be in the collection? When would it arrive? And now we know. Tom has shared with me that he's never seen or heard of an author's archive as complete as this one. And a few days ago, Patricia and I had an opportunity to come in privately very early in the morning and work and look at it with the university's archivist. I could have spent the whole day there. There are handwritten drafts of every novel. That's about some 10,000 handwritten pages, and Pat has excellent handwriting, I might add. Included within the collection are the archive of his father, Don, the great Santini himself, and the archive of his mentor and teacher, Eugene Norris. And the archive will continue to grow. We've just received the boxes for the death of Santini, just received those boxes, and we must believe that there are more novels to come. I have no doubt that Pat's, I think your brother found that to be humorous, I don't know why, but we do believe there will be more novels to come. I have no doubt that Pat's papers will become a magnet for the papers of other contemporary Southern writers. We want them all, ladies and gentlemen, we want them all. Of course, we hope that they will include those of Pat's wife, Cassandra King. Pat has written, let me end with yet another quote. I love the first quote, but here's a good one too. He has said, quote, "The great teachers will fill you up with hope and shower you with 1,000 reasons to embrace all aspects of life." That's a great quote, the great teachers. We thank Pat Conroy for being one of those great teachers. He doesn't do it in a traditional way like he used to, but he does it through his writings. It's only fitting that Pat's life work is now housed in the Ernest F. Hollings Special Collections Library with the work and letters of other great Americans like Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald, like Joseph Heller and others. Very good company for Pat Conroy. It is now my pleasure to introduce Richard Smith, who has made this extraordinary day possible. We hail thee, Carolina. We hail thee, Richard. Please come up and join me.
Well, good morning, and it's good to be here. My wife and I are very pleased and excited to bring the Pat Conroy Archive to the University of South Carolina. Pat Conroy is a gifted writer whose papers belong at the University of South Carolina. Pat's description of people, places, and events is very unique and can pique your interest. His vocabulary usage and sentence structure is poetic. Pat has written of his difficult childhood and his challenging years at the Citadel. I have a great appreciation for what he has gone through and what he has accomplished as a person and as a writer. Our desire is that this collection will inspire students, faculty, and researchers around the world to examine the Conroy Archive here in Columbia, South Carolina. I grew up a loyal Gamecock, and my whole family graduated from USC. My mother was a great supporter of the university by contributing to scholarships, special programs, and new buildings on campus. My mother believed in the value of education and the central role the library plays. She enjoyed reading literature, and especially the writings of Pat Conroy. I know she would be very excited about this opportunity. We're glad to bring the Pat Conroy Archive to USC. Thank you for your time. May God bless you, and go Gamecocks.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Novell. This truly is a remarkable archive that will be used for many, many decades to come. And thank you, Pat and Cassandra. You wanted the collection to come here. I can tell you that universities all across this country would have lined up for the chance to have this archive. But Pat Conroy's papers belong in South Carolina, and as of today, they are here. And now let's hear from the man we all want to hear from, Pat Conroy.
Thank you all very much. I had no idea there was going to be a ceremony like this. I had no idea I was going to be giving a talk. I had no idea I'd be meeting the Smiths, who I'm delighted to meet. And part of this, what was not told when Mr. Smith just sat down, is part of the deal is not only do I give my papers at the University of South Carolina, I have to mow the Smith's lawn for the rest of my life. There's so many reasons I'm happy about this. You may not know this, but Clemson University also tried to buy my papers. And they offered me 10 tractors, a herd of cows, and all the blue cheese I could eat for the rest of my life. Some of you also may not know I come from I went to the Citadel. But you may not know that my brothers and sisters are the most fanatic South Carolina Gamecock fans who ever lived. This embarrasses me, but my brothers have tickets, season tickets, to the baseball team. And I'm going to find out later they have season tickets to the swimming team, the lacrosse team. And I have no idea, but there's that kind of fanaticism in my family. There are people here today, starting with my brothers and sisters and my sisters-in-law, that I'd love to introduce you all to. And now, this is going to cause some embarrassment. Okay, now, I want you to watch the complete embarrassment on my family's face when I ask them to stand. Will my brothers and sisters stand and, face the audience so they can see you? Okay, Mike, Jim, Kathy, Tim, could you all stand, please? Okay, yeah. You probably think getting them here is easy. It is not. They fight me on every... When the great Walter Edgar was interviewing us, my brother Mike came in 20 minutes late to an interview. Walter, can you imagine that? And I said, Mike, why are you late? And he said, Pat, I have a closing. I said, Mike, I've had closings. I've bought lots of houses. You don't need to be there. And he said, oh, I have a closing. So he marched in 20 minutes late. But I'm grateful to my brothers and sisters, grateful to the poor women who married into the Conroy family. Okay, now these are tragic figures in South Carolina history. Women who fall in love with Conroys, and their lives are so hideous, so changed, so perverted. But would you ladies, you lucky ladies, stand up? Sandra, that includes you. Okay, this. And the Smiths, I got to just thank for, not only their generosity, I just met them, I loved them. And this is what always surprises me about South Carolina. You go around, and I went to a book signing in Camden yesterday. And we can't go anywhere in this state without, and they'll start. And the guy that lives next door to you, when you were a freshman at the Citadel, who quit and later went to Furman. Yeah, I remember that guy. And it starts from there. And then you start going on who you know, who you're related to in South Carolina. It continues everywhere I go. This is not a state we live in. This, South Carolina, is a cult. And we're all part of it. We're all. Now, I've got one person here, Bill Dufford, I want to understand. Coming to Beaufort in 1961. And I'd been to Catholic schools my whole life. And Catholic schools were very different. And I'd never been to a public school. And I heard the public school, they ate drugs, they drank. They didn't pray before they, studied. I just had no idea what they did. So I walk into this, what seemed like a lunatic place at the University of South Carolina, and I sign up, and there's a guy in a shirt, just a regular shirt. He's sitting there, he's young, he's handsome, and I think, okay, he's an assistant golf coach. He was the principal of the high school because we'd only had priests and headmasters and nuns who weighed 300 pounds and had mustaches. And so this young, handsome guy, Bill Dufford, is the principal. Bill's here today. I wanted him to stand up. And for this reason, because when I saw Bill Dufford, and when I saw Gene Norris, my English teacher, Millen Ellis, my English teacher, Walt Gannan, my chemistry teacher, I didn't know you could fall in love with teachers. I did not know you could fall in love with schools. I did not know they could make you so passionate about learning. I worked for Bill one summer. And he took me to lunch every day. That was my pay. He took me to lunch every day, and I saw him downtown working a crowd at Harry's restaurant. And I learned how a city worked, and I learned how a principal worked, and I learned how it all worked together, and Bill's personality and his magnetism, his charisma. And he would go, and I fell in love with it. And what I wanted people to do when I grew up, I wanted them to look at me the way people in that town looked at my principal, Bill Dufford. Bill, could you stand up and show yourself? I married 8 times, and this last time seems to have taken very well. Cassandra King is also a novelist who writes pornography. And if South Carolina wants to, do this, that's up to them. They will be lowering their standards. But I'm a Christian man. I cannot read Sandra's stuff, because there's some morality here. Here is what I'm tremendously glad about. I came here and I was 15. Beaufort High School was my 11th school in 12 years. And we left a school I love in Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C., and we're driving down. I'm miserable. It's my 3rd high school in a row, my 4th school in a row, and I am perfectly miserable. And I said, Mom, I never saw the inside of a Gonzaga boy's home last year. And she said, oh, don't worry about that. And I said, don't worry about it. Mom, I've never been to a dance. I've never danced with a girl. I've never held a girl's hand. I've never talked to a girl. There'll be plenty of time for that, don't worry. Then she said, make Beaufort your home. We know we're gonna be here for 2 years. Make this your home. Your dad fought in the Marine Corps. You get to choose any place in America because your father has earned it and we have earned it as military brats, military wives. You've earned your hometown. Poor Beaufort. I latched onto this poor town like a barnacle. So much so that there was a guidebook several years ago that came out that said, my neighbors in the point remember me on a tricycle when I was in first grade riding around the point. But that is all right. It was what I did not know when I crossed into South Carolina. I was passing into my literary territory. I did not know that everything I would see would set me ablaze, would set me passionately afire with language, with the beauty of this state, with the extraordinary stories that come out of this. Can you believe these stories that come out of here? And people will, I'll go to New York and they'll say, those stories are ridiculous. I said, oh, really? And I said, which ones? The white porpoise? I said, I could have had you shake hands with its flipper if you'd been around in 1961. What about the tiger? I said, let's go to Columbia, to Gervais Street, and I'll show you the tiger. And every single one of the stories that they have not believed simply are part of the amazing fabric of South Carolina. There is no state that produces stories like this state. There's just none. I wanted also very much for these papers to be here at the university. I would have had them go to the Citadel, but the Citadel does not have the extraordinary facility you have here. They just don't have it. But that was not possible. But I wanted them to stay in South Carolina because this has been the state where I've written, what I have written about. And the thing they're giving out today is about the first page of The Prince of Tides. I wrote that in Rome, Italy, when I miss South Carolina, when I felt South Carolina. And every time I'm away from this state, I feel that thing of coming back. It pulls me back. I cannot help it. There's some tidal thing in this state that gets me every single time. I studied at this university under James Dickey. He changed my life. I thought he was the greatest poet that ever lived. I studied under him, came to the university, learned from him, and learned from the teachers around him. My brothers and sisters, ridiculous Gamecocks, disgusting Gamecocks, embarrassing Gamecocks that would humiliate all of you if you only knew how bad they were. But my papers belonged here. I wanted them here. I am happy they're here. I am proud that they're here. And I will try to add to them for the rest of my writing life, and that is my pledge to y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was as good as it gets. Thank you.
I forgot to thank Tom and his library staff who bought the collection. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Well, let me thank all of you for being here today. This is really one of the great days in the history of our library. Just a few items. We do have samples from the collection in the cases over there. A small sample. There's so much that we haven't even had a chance to see yet. But we did want you to see a little bit of the collection. We have refreshments in the lobby. A number of them come from the Pat Conroy cookbook. And for members of the press, we're going to move Pat briefly into a room on that side of the building for any of you who wish to do interviews, and the rest of us, anyone that you want to talk to, will be in this room. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Thank you.